Today I want to talk about what I consider to be the top 10 mecha pops that Funko has ever made. Now keep in mind that Funko hasn't made every mecha from every property in the world, so as much as I'd love a Gundam mecha, a Macross Funko Pop, they just don't exist. It's limited to what Funko has actually made. Also keep in mind that mecha anime can be a lot of things. It can be about robots, technology, or just science fiction in general. But for this video, I want to concentrate on mecha that actually requires a pilot. And that isn't just an airplane or a tank, piloted mecha with actual limbs. I think generally that's most people's definition of an actual mecha. Alright, so let's get started with number 10. The White Tiger Sword, which belonged to the White Ranger Tommy, came out pretty good in pop form. I think it's a little underappreciated because it does look a little simple compared to the other ones, but I really like the design of it. The tiger on the chest came out really good, but I do wish it had a little bit more of a dynamic pose, which a lot of the 6-inch pops don't have. So it's understandable, but overall I still think it looks pretty cool. The Hulkbuster from Infinity War has a lot of awesome details on it, some that you may not appreciate unless you take it out of the box, because the back is fully detailed as well. Now I don't consider Iron Man himself to be a mecha because that's a guy in a suit of armor, but the Hulkbuster itself is so big with so many specialized weapons that I do consider this a mecha. And this version does look better than the original one they made from Age of Ultron. Just lots of great detail all around, very nice metallic paint, and a very good head sculpt that still looks like a Funko Pop, but is proportioned correctly to make this thing look massive. If they would have made the head too big, it would have dwarfed the body too much. So I think they balanced that right. And this one also is a 6-inch pop, appropriately so. I also really like this 6-inch Howard the Duck. This one's from a video game, so they have to give him a way to fight, right? And I'm not sure if he has this mecha in the comics as well, but this pop is based from the video game. And it looks pretty fabulous. The colors are striking. I really love the printed details that are supposed to look like they're spray painted on with little paint drips. Those came out really nice, especially on the back. Really cool out of the box. And the way they made Howard the Duck himself on top, kind of leaning over and resting his shoulder on the edge there, looks really good. I think this is another underappreciated Funko Pop. Chewbacca in the AT-ST. Now some may argue that this is a tank, and if it was on tracks, then yeah, I would say it is a tank. But since it's on those legs, and the head swivels around on the actual vehicle, arguably this could be considered a mecha. And I think it came out really good. The only thing I would criticize on this one is that I wish they would have made Chewbacca in the 1.75-inch scale instead of full size to make the AT-ST look bigger. I believe this is considered a Pop Deluxe. So it is big, but scaling down Chewbacca would make the AT-ST look more impressive because look at all those really cool details on it. A lot of the times, the bigger pops, the pop rides, the pop towns, tend to have these very large unpainted pieces of plastic, which this has, but it has so much detail on it that it looks good. No part of it looks unfinished. And even the base has some really nice detailing on it with the greens and the browns. This one looks really good from all angles. Not sure how well this sold. I didn't see too much excitement around its release, but I hope that one day Funko does make a full-on AT-AT with a tiny pocket-sized Luke Skywalker hanging underneath it. Wrecking Ball from Overwatch is also a really awesome looking pop. With all of the mechas on this list, they all look great out of the box because they're also detailed. I mean, look how cool this looks from every angle. And you can take Hammond the hamster out of it, and if you notice, he's done in a very small scale, so it makes the mecha itself look more impressive. They also did this one in an orange, black, and green colorway that also looks very nice. It definitely stands out more, but I think both versions are very cool. Megazord from Power Rangers was a lot of American kids' first introduction to mechas. And it was kind of mind-blowing at the time because it just combined a lot of things that kids love, right? Dinosaurs, robots, martial arts, costumes, action, and it was silly on top of that. and I really like the way the Funko Pop turned out. The head may be a little too big, but it's fine, it's a Funko Pop. But as you saw with the Hulkbuster, sometimes a smaller head makes these 6-inch pops look better, but that could come down to personal taste, because a lot of the reason that people like Funko Pops are those big heads. This one did have a few versions. I believe there's just a common with the regular paint, a metallic, which this one is here, and a glow-in-the-dark one. I personally like the metallic one the best, because that's just more appropriate for a mecha. Now, my all-time favorite mecha anime is Evangelion, and unfortunately, Funko has only made Unit 1, but he came out better than I expected, because this is not an easy design to translate into pop form. They have a very small head relative to the body, and very long limbs. It's basically the opposite proportions of a Funko Pop, but they were able to pull it off, and they gave it a somewhat dynamic pose. Instead of just standing straight up and down, it looks like it's about to engage in action. And they got the shade of purple and green just right, and just balanced the proportions of it really well and included all the details they needed to make it extremely recognizable as Unit 1. And the common one is my favorite. There is one with a bunch of blood on it, which is cool too. That just comes down to what you like more. But for me, I like the clean one. The only thing I wish they would have done is have the head where the purple part meets the gray part. If that would have somehow opened up, and they included a plug in there, which is like the cockpit that you can remove or even display with it open and the plug halfway sticking out, that would have been really amazing. Now for me, the very first mecha I ever saw on screen was Voltron. I used to absolutely love Voltron as a kid, and I'm talking little, I was like 6, and I was lucky enough to have a Voltron toy. Although I'm not 100% sure it wasn't a knockoff one. I think it was, but I still liked it. It looked close enough to the cartoon for me. Funko has made a couple of Voltrons, one based on the early cartoon and one based on the new one, which is what this one is on screen. There are a few different design elements to the new one, but it still looks like Voltron, right? They didn't change it enough to make it unrecognizable, and I think it looked way better in pop form than the original one looked in pop form. Here's the original, still pretty cool. But this 6-inch version of the new design looks really amazing. I just love everything about it. The Titanfall II mechas were very unique at the time because I want to say they were the first ones to open up and include one of these 1.75-inch scaled pilots. I didn't play the game. I don't know if it was good or bad. I really don't care. This is more about the design and execution by Funko, and how cool these pops look overall. The two on the left appear to just be repaints, but the pilots do have their own sculpt and mold. And the two on the right are different designs, and I want to say those are the better ones, especially that Blisk one. I love the way that it opens up on the very top. I think that looks a little better for display. All 4 of these pops together outside of the box on a bookshelf are very, very eye-catching. Before I get into number 1, these are the ones that didn't quite make it into the top 10. The Dino Ultrazord is awesome. It's 10 inches, it's huge. But this one does start to look a little bit more like a tank because it's on tracks, and if I'm remembering correctly, it kind of just rolls around and shoots things. And it does have some areas of unpainted plastic that look a little unfinished to me, a little toyish looking, so that's why it didn't quite make the cut. Ripley and the power loader from Aliens is also really cool, but there are several things I wish they would have done different, like make Ripley in the 1.75-inch size, so her face isn't pressed against the cage. It just looks silly when you start to inspect it a little closer. But if they would have done that, the power loader would have looked more massive, and I think the scaling would have been better when you put her next to the 6-inch Queen. The exoskeleton Snowball from Rick and Morty looks about perfect. I really wouldn't change a thing on this one. It's just not as impressive as some of the other ones on the list to me. And the last one that didn't make the cut is Alfredo Linguini. Very strong, traditional Italian name, and the pop is well done. But it would have been cool if there was a chase version with his pilot Rebby peeking out from under the hat. Alright, now on to number 1. And the mecha that I personally consider the best one that Funko has ever made is Diva and Mecha from Overwatch. There is a few colorways, which are all cool. This design really lends itself for different paint jobs. The pink one is the original one they put out, and I think it looks great because pink is one of my favorite colors, but I think the combination of black and pink and white just looks nice. And the translucent blue dome makes this all look kind of deluxe and high quality. But the most eye-catching paint job is probably the Nano Cola version, because that gradient paint job came out very nice. I love the transition from blue to seafoam to lime to the gray pieces, and this one does have a lot of nice printed details all around. And it does make it stand out from the rest, but they all look really good. And Diva herself is also done in the 1.75 inch size, making the entire mecha look more massive. Really one of the better pops that Funko has ever made. Alright guys, that was my top 10 mecha Funko Pops. Let me know what you think in the comments below, what your favorites are. I do wish that Funko eventually gets licenses from more anime, because it would be cool to have some Gundam or some Macross, and more of the Evas from Evangelion. That's what I would really want. But let me know in the comments below what mecha you would like to see in the future, and what your favorites are that Funko has already made. Alright, thanks for watching and take it easy.